Today I want to talk about a few things that you must do as a man. Because today we don't really have any sort of standard for masculinity. Most masculinity is considered toxic, but I'm not really going to get into that. What I am going to get into is things you must do as a man to establish that manhood. I'm not going to say you're less of a man for not doing these things, but they're just things that need to be done facing the reality that we live in, right? So the first thing you must do is you must set a standard. As a man, you must set a standard. There has to be some sort of standard to how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, how you appear places, how you operate, really, is really what you must establish, is some sort of standard, right? The behavior you'll accept, the behavior you won't accept from yourself and from others. So this is a moving target sometimes as you get older. Obviously, people make mistakes, X, Y, Z, but there's always there needs to be some sort of standard. As you go on throughout your life, those standards will change. They'll modify with, whatever life situation you're having, but certain standards must be kept and maintained. So, for example, right, I work out. There's a standard to how I look, to how I carry myself, to the amount of workouts I get in per week. This all translates, right? The standard isn't really about how I look. It's more about the standard of how physically active I am, right? 10,000 steps per day, probably 4 or 5 workouts per week at this point. There's been times where it's been 6 workouts per week. There's been times where it's been 14 workouts per week. You have to set some sort of standard given your current life situation. Same goes for money. How much money am I making? How much money am I keeping, saving, spending, investing? Standards. So, as a man, you always must have standards. And leads me to my second point of being a man. Just the reality of being a man is no one cares. No one cares at all. And that's okay. That's okay. That's just something you have to understand and operate within. So same thing. If you know that no one cares, you can understand that you can set your standards however you want, and you need to adhere to them. But see, it's a double-edged sword, right? No one cares, as in no one cares about you, as in they won't take care of you. But at the same time, no one cares what you do, right? Like, it's empowering at the same time, because you can be like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my standard, and you can take it or leave it. No one cares, and you just have to deal with that fact. It's just a simple fact of it. Women, children, dogs, they all get sympathy, but we do not. When a guy's a bum, he's just a bum. When a woman's a bum, it's like, oh, this poor lady. I don't know. But regardless, those are just the things that you have to deal with and understand as a man. And it sucks. It really sucks. Sometimes, people can be bitter about it. I can be bitter about it. You can be mad about it. But if you understand the reality of it, then you can act accordingly. If you don't understand the reality of it, if you sit there and bitch and moan and say, hey, things shouldn't be like this. I wish other things were, I wish things were different. Well, that's all good, well and good, but they're not different. So you have to understand that. You must perform regardless. You always must perform. You must perform to those standards I talked about before. So once you set a standard, you have to adhere to it. You ever notice how people don't get respect if they're fat or if they're poor or if they're a lot of negative things, if they're a loser, right? But the thing is if you're a loser, it's really just a result of being undisciplined. So you must perform, right? Because no one respects a man who doesn't have discipline. Therefore, you must always perform. If someone respects someone who's in shape, they respect the discipline. They don't so much respect the body or the look or whatever. They see people with money. They respect the discipline. They respect the hard work, the consistency, the saving, investing, whatever it took to get there. That's the intangible part of it that people respect. So you must perform regardless. I'll give you a perfect example. My fucking eye. It's been a hell of a week dealing with this eye. My last video, I said, hey, I thought something was wrong with it, allergic reaction or something. Turns out it's infected pretty badly. And this is actually the better version of it. This is after I got to the doctor, got everything fixed, got a whole bunch of eye drops and some antibiotics. And my point is that I didn't really miss a beat. You know, I still hit my standards. I still went to work every day. I still woke up, did my workouts, still did everything. And that's the point. You must perform regardless. And life's going to hit you with certain things that are just unpredictable. You know, I didn't feel, I couldn't even see out of it. My eye was like crusted shut in the morning. It was gross. I could barely, it was so swollen, I could barely see out of it. And it was just a mess. My whole side of my head, it's still, you can see, it's still kind of swollen. And even this, right? I didn't want to film this video, but I said, hey, I'm going to film and post a video once per week. So you must perform regardless. Even though no one's watching these videos, right? You still must perform because as a man, you're setting a standard, you must perform. And with certain things, you can kind of fake it till you make it, but certain things you can't. And that was one of the things that I learned from fitness so much is you cannot fake the commitment because people will see your results or lack of results, right? I can say, hey, I do 100 push-ups every day, I swear. But if my chest looks inverted, no one's going to believe me, right? And it almost doesn't even matter what the standard was. It's do I have the results? So I could say, hey, I promised to post all these videos, but, you know, my eye got infected that week and I don't look the greatest, so I'm not going to post a video. Or I can just say, hey, I'm going to do it regardless. I'm going to take this as a lesson and keep it moving, you know? Take this as, that's just life's unpredictability. So a lot of times when men don't set standards, almost anything will knock them down. But more importantly, if you don't have a standard, you have nothing to adhere to. So when shit hits the fan, when things happen in life, it doesn't matter. You say, hey, I can take a day off. I'm not feeling so well today. But if you say, hey, these are the amount of workouts I got to get in this week, then those are the amount of workouts you have to get in that week. And that's just what you have to do. So, you know, if you set a standard for, say, 5 and you miss a couple days, you can say, okay, I'll make those up on the weekend. Because I owe that to myself. I owe that to the standard. But if you don't have a standard, you're just kind of just winging it. And that doesn't really get you anywhere. So, and that brings me to my last point, right? Of just manhood, I guess stoicism, but it's really about your masculine energy. And this is something I've had to learn myself, right? This doesn't come naturally. It doesn't just come as you grow up, and it doesn't come, especially in our society. But don't bitch, don't complain unless someone can give you advice on that, right? If like, I'll go to the doctor and complain about my eye, but I'm not going to say to this person, that person, hey, this thing is hurting, this is bothering me, this is whatever. No, I'm just going to get it done. I'm going to pop some ibuprofen. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get it done, because there's really no purpose in bitching to people who can't help you. You're just complaining. You're just lamenting about your situation, and you don't want to fix it because you're complaining to someone who can't help you, right? I might complain to my masseuse that this part of my neck hurts or this part of my back hurts or something, but just to complain to someone who can't help you, it's like, what's the point? So with all that said, it's just a burden of performance. When you're entering manhood, when you're continuing, and honestly, this isn't even so much about manhood, this is more about adulthood. And it's just a burden of performance that you have as an adult. As a child, you weren't given this burden of performance. It was a free trial. But as you go into the world, you are expected to perform. A lot of times for people, the only standards that are set are those which are imposed upon them. So their job says, hey, you have to wake up at this time and be here at this time. That's it. That's the only standard in their life, right? Or they say, you have to wake up at this time, you have to be here, you know, this is when you get off, this is when you eat lunch. These are the standards, and they're being set for you. But where the real power lies and where you'll end up having the power to get yourself where you want to be is when you impose the standards upon yourself. You say, hey, I want this result, so I'm going to impose this standard to accomplish that result. Whereas most people don't have any other standards in their life. Whether those are, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that. So there's always going to have to be some standards in your life as an adult if you want to get somewhere. A lot of times I see a lot of people who are my age, my demographic, my income bracket, and who are not where they want to be financially. They're not where they want to be. Perfect example, this house, right? A lot of people struggle to buy a house, and here I am, one guy living in a freaking 3-bedroom house by myself. And the point is, I know other people my age who want to buy a house, but did they set standards in their life, right? For years, I had financial standards of how much I'm spending, how much I'm saving, how much I'm investing. And then when it came time to buy a house, it was like, okay, I have a standard of income that I need to meet in order to afford this, right? People are not setting those standards, and they're just hoping, oh, I hope I get the promotion. I hope I get this. I hope I get that. You set the standard, and then you keep going until you meet it. So with all that said, those are like the baselines of adulthood, manhood, whatever you want to call it. You got to set standards. Nobody really cares. Most people are concerned with their own life more than they're concerned with yours, and that's how you should be. You should be concerned with your life. So set standards. No one cares, and you always have to perform. And listen, if they can't help you, don't bitch to them. No one wants to hear it. No one wants to just hear someone complaining. Those are like the 4 takeaways I've seen from adulthood of just being accountable to yourself and holding your own standards. Hope that was helpful. Tell me a standard in your life that, changed your life. Maybe you set a workout plan. Maybe you finally started setting a budget. Maybe you did something that changed your life. What are standards for you that worked? Because I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to see more. So let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.